Greetings and welcome. Thomas Cox here with Jim Prinzing for another episode of M2 Managing Managers. Today it's engaging staff by talking with them about excellence. And this came up recently with a client of mine, and it in parallel came up with a client of Jim's recently. And I think if we both look back, we'd see this has come up a bunch of times that we need to engage staff. We need them to do a good job. And interestingly enough, when you talk with your frontline people, especially in an inclusive and engaging and curious way about their opinion of what excellence is and what stops them from getting more of it, they find that very engaging because people like to win. People like to do a good job and they like to get better over time. That's a core human drive. And your job as a manager of managers is to make sure that your frontline managers and supervisors are able to have this conversation with their people so that, because right, you're a layer removed. You can't be in there meddling with the front line. So this will be, I believe by the time we're done with this episode, you will have in your hands a reusable, trainable system that you can encourage your frontline staff to use, frontline managers to use to teach frontline staff how to be even better at their jobs and get a very high level of engagement in the process of having the conversation. Does that sound like a fair promise, Jim?
Yes. And I think what the hurdle that you need to overcome in this is that there's a good chance that your frontline managers have had this done poorly so
Mm,
many times. And when asked to do it themselves, they will revert to the models that they've seen, which again, were done poorly. You know,
almost
that
certain.
that looks like, hey guys, we're sucking it. Here's all the targets that you're missing. Get better. I mean, that's the
Sure.
right? That's the traditional, you know, I mean, that's what comes out of many of those conversations is, sort of a whipping session about all the areas that we're missing and how we need to do better without really thought about like what are the constraints and
Yes.
what are the roadblocks to where we need to get better and everything that goes along with that. So
Right. It's not an engaging conversation by any means.
no, what we're talking about is the opposite of that. And the analogy that I like to use when I teach this sort of thing is the difference between playing poker and doing a puzzle.
Oh,
So
okay.
in poker, you're sitting across from the other person, you're competing for the same resources, and neither of you knows all the cards you're holding and isn't willing to share. So it's a game of bluffing and not sharing all the information. When you're doing a puzzle, you're sitting generally on the same side of the table together, and you've got a picture in mind, hopefully the box, right? The box cover, and you've got all the pieces out on the table and you're working together to put the pieces together. So that little visual in and of itself has helped me get many a frontline manager over the hump of this is the situation we want to create. Think puzzle, not poker.
Nice. Well, and when I hear that, what comes up for me is, yeah, I want to collaborate with my subordinates on figuring out how do we do better rather than assuming, oh, they're not doing better because they're not scared enough or they're not motivated enough or they don't understand that it's important. I need them to understand it's important. Like they're all stuck in second gear and I just need them to shift into third gear. And they're like whatever, maliciously or lazily not shifting. And
And
so
that
my
is
job
almost that is nearly not ever true. Nearly not ever, right?
it's rare enough that it's the exception, not the rule.
Most people do not show up to work thinking, how can I be mediocre today? Now, there's plenty of things that get in their way and might make them mediocre, but that's not what they really want to do. Like most people want to do good work. Most people want to feel good about the work that they accomplished for the day.
As long as there's a path to good work and it's clear what good work is and someone appreciates them for doing it.
Yeah.
So what I think we're talking about here is implicit in our shared model. I will pop that on screen real quick. So I think what it is that we're alluding to here is that we're wanting to talk today about having a conversation about excellence, which is the third of the three elements. It's the third of the three buckets of behaviors, the drive excellence behaviors include having these conversations. And those only really work well if you've got enough self-mastery and enough trust built that you are sort of, I don't know, entitled, that you have permission, that you've done the pre-work necessary to have a constructive conversation with staff about that. So please don't leap into following the guidance in today's podcast immediately if you haven't first taken the time to ensure that you've got enough self-mastery that you are showing up as this steady and curious and empathic leader, where that the frontline manager you're overseeing, who you're encouraging to do this, has done that work and has built great relationships through one-on-ones, through well, gosh, doing these three things. Here's another one of our models. So part of the way we build trust, right? Strong relationships build trust and engagement. Trust itself is made up of three elements, namely competence, the ability to deliver results or value, integrity, which is keeping your words and your actions match, and benevolence, which, are you on my side? Do you have my best interests at heart? It includes things like openness and transparency. So
And by
we're
the
getting
way,
a feel today.
doing
Yeah.
this, doing the style of meeting that we're going to share in a moment, or doing this cadence around building excellence, is a great way to demonstrate benevolence and
Yes.
integrity, and therefore
Right.
build trust and relationships. So what we're going
So
to
it's not like this
show,
is linear. This is sort of iterative, right? We're going to do some self-mastery. You're going to build some trust. You're going to talk a little bit about excellence in a way that builds trust. So
right?
these
I think it's
interact.
it's important to note that you're not going to get great results from this exercise if psychological safety is low, because people will not put forward their ideas and opinions if they don't trust that those are going to be used in a productive way. So it's important with your subordinate manager that they understand the basics of psychological safety, and that they can actually use this process to build psych safety with the team, as long as they don't weaponize the information in some way.
Yes. So let's have a look at the process that we're. Yeah. So it's a 12-week process where we talk about week by week, what can the manager ask the team to. This is like 5 to 15 minutes a week, once a week for 12 weeks. And you'll see that in week one, you say, hey, I want to start with something simple. This is the frontline manager speaking to frontline staff. We should always stay close to what our customers think excellence is. I'd like to hear your thoughts. What does excellence look like to you in our work? And then you invite them to say things about what does good work look like. And I typically say, hey, everyone just write some words down on paper real quick to kind of like anchor your thoughts. Because in a minute, I'm going to have you talk to each other in pairs, and I don't want you to have to be like rehearsing your own answer in your head so you can't listen. So just write some thoughts down. I'll give you 30 seconds of silence. What are some words that come to mind about excellence in the job that you do? These could be front desk receptionists. They could be busboys. They could be wait staff. They could be, account representatives, anybody who talks directly to clients. And once you've shared that, your deliverable at the end of the day is a one-page list of the staff's initial answers, but you collect their answers however if they want post-it notes, you collect the post-it notes. If they just give it verbally from their scribbles, then you jot it down on a sheet of paper or a whiteboard, take a photo of the whiteboard. But you end with a list, right? Now, this is a fairly low lift. Even if you don't have a ton of great relationship and a ton of psychological safety, you're kind of just asking people to throw out there, what are some words and phrases that have to do with excellence in what we do? And they'll, some of them will try to guess what you're thinking. And my strong suggestion here is say, ooh, I like that. What else? Or who's got something different? Well, ooh, nice. And what's something different? And if you don't understand an answer, say, ooh, that one surprised me. I like it. I'm learning something new here. Say more about that. Well, and if the person's struggling, you say, who can help Chris get this thought pulled together? have them help each other get the ideas out onto the table in a sense. And you're there, like everything they say is great. Ooh, I like that. Huh, I'm confused. Say more about that. And, you can say, hey, if someone says, well, being on time, it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, of course our clients want us to be on time. Totally correct. I completely see why you'd say that. What else? And you'll probably get some version of timeliness, some version of quality, and some version of quantity, because quality, quantity, and time are kind of the three dimensions of work. And if you don't hear one of those three, you might prompt them with that one. But quality, quantity, time is something to listen for in week one. And there
So
could be
out of week
other.
one, what does the manager come away with?
Yeah, so you're going to come away with two things. You're going to come away with this list. Sorry, it's off the right edge. Are you seeing my questions? My week one? Yeah. Okay. Then it is sharing the way I intended to be shared. And so I have, if I'm the frontline manager, I've got my little list that is a summary of what everybody said. It's a collection of their words and phrases. And the other deliverable is the frontline staff just had a 5-minute conversation about what excellence is, and all I did was cheerlead them. So it was safe to talk about it because no one got yelled at or criticized. Like, what a dumb idea. No. There are no dumb ideas. There's only interesting answers. And they're like, huh, that didn't hurt as much as usual. They might be saying if they have a bad backstory or a bad prior experience. And that's it. And then this list becomes the input to the next week. In the second week, you toss the list up. Maybe you reformatted it. Maybe you make it a handout. Maybe you project it on the wall. But you somehow share back to them, hey, the last week we spent a few minutes talking about what excellence is. I want to ask you guys some further questions on that. In order to reach excellence, sometimes things get in the way. What are some things that get in the way of you achieving the excellence you'd like to achieve that our clients would like for us to give them? And just, again, blurt some words out. Everyone scribble some words down and get into pairs and talk about your words and then share them into the circle of the group. And silent writing, sharing in pairs, and then sharing with the group is a pattern that I love because the writing lets the people who need to write in order to think, it gives them some silence to do that. If it's all verbal, fast-moving stuff, they get shut down. Talking in pairs means that even the shy people who don't want to talk to more than one other person at a time have a chance to talk. And about half of people have to talk ideas out in order to think their thoughts, maybe more than half. And even the ones who don't need it will further develop their ideas. So writing silently and then talking in pairs. And you could even, if a big group, you can have them get into groups of 4 to further refine things before they share with the whole room.
That said, this could even work in a stand-up meeting on a shop floor with zero writing, right? Like this could happen that way with just, a flip chart or a whiteboard or just even the manager with a piece of paper writing down everybody's ideas. Like it doesn't need to be so formalized.
It's elastic. Let this shrink or expand as you need it to. If you only have a 5-minute work huddle at the beginning, give it 30 seconds. Maybe you run the week 1 question 2 or 3 huddles in a row. Maybe you run the week 2 questions, a couple huddles in a row, 60 seconds each time. Whatever, just make it fit without it being disruptive or weird or scary.
Right. And with week 2, this is a great opportunity to show benevolence and to begin to build trust. And
yes, I agree, but say more.
Because many times we've put the roadblocks in place ourselves inadvertently, organizationally. We've created a process that is kludgy. We've got, something that just doesn't function the way that it's supposed to function. And it gets in the way of the frontline worker doing their best work. And it's frustrating to them. So this is a great place. My favorite question to ask when I was a multi-unit restaurant manager would be to go in and talk to the service staff or the cooks and say, hey, what makes your job hard? Like, I know you guys do such a great job here and you do such great things for our guests. What makes it hard to do a great job for them? And they would say things like, oh, we don't have enough trays, or, oh, the coffee machine in the service alley is broken, so we have to go get coffee clear over here. Or some silly thing that is an easy fix, like low hanging fruit. Like tackle those things first, especially
Oh God.
especially if you're doing this with a new team. It's a fantastic way to build trust through benevolence, through showing, hey,
Right.
we want you to be able to do excellent work. Like, how can we get out of your way? Make sure you can do excellent.
Right. Because the bucket of skills we label build trust includes listening. And how do you prove you listened? Well, you said a thing here in week 2 about how the showers have low pressure. And then I come in the next morning and the showers have good pressure. That's a uh, scene from, what was it? The American soccer coach in England,
Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso. One of the first things he does starts building trust is he notices small complaints and he starts getting them fixed. Right. Okay. So it's a 12-week process. We're already in week 2. We're beginning to demonstrate the senior manager of managers is maybe demonstrates this a few times to frontline managers or, just walks them through it, make sure that they can do it successfully. Now in week 3, this frontline manager, and by the way, you can like ask to inspect these things or like stick your head in and listen in as this is unfolding. Just don't disrupt things by your presence, right? Don't infantilize your frontline manager. But the end of week 2, you've got this list of, sort of obstacles, list of barriers, whatever. And then in week 3, you show up, hey, so you guys said some stuff about what excellence is, and I've been working on knocking down some of those things that get in the way. Um, it occurs to me that we should definitely be curious what our customers think about our service and what they think is excellent. Um, who's got a good customer relationship? You could check this out, and you can hand them like a one pager of some of the things that were said in week 1 with some white space on it, and maybe they like to scribble some thoughts down, or maybe you can just ask them verbally, and you can write their answers down on this sheet of paper and give back to me. And
Probably important here to identify that the customer could be an internal customer. Like,
right, thank you. Yes,
yeah,
whoever is the
like
recipient
if you're
of the
talking to a
units.
group of brewers, then their customer might be the cellarman. Or if you're talking to a group of warehouse workers, then it could be the distribution center that they're delivering the product to, right?
Absolutely. The cage washers in a research facility, it's not the mice. It's the investigators and the supervisor and probably the regulatory group. Um, and, if you're the dishwasher in a restaurant, it's probably the cooks and the wait staff as much as the actual paying customers. And the idea here is find some easy, fun, creative ways to ask people to be curious and listen in and prompt those customers they have the best relationships with to share their perspective. Like, hey, we're putting together a statement of what is excellence for you, our customer. What do you think? And then you'll collect that by the end of the week so that in the 4th meeting, they say, hey, here's what we're hearing from our customers. Are we seeing any patterns here? And then at the end of week 4, you'll have what our customers said. By week 5, maybe you've got a couple of frontline staff who are super excited by this process and they like wordsmithing or whatever. They're natural leaders, perhaps. You can enlist their help to help you write an excellence statement version 1 to put up on the. And it's a combination of what we think is excellence and what some of our internal or external customers had to say. How's this look? I know it's not perfect, but it's the best I could do without getting your input. But how do we make this better? Again, a few minutes. And then everyone's like, wow, okay, we got some stuff written on the wall, whoop-de-doo. Here's where it starts to get really interesting. What are some small experiments we could do to test out improvements? Now, up in week 2, it was stuff that the boss can change in theory. Now it's stuff that only the front line can do differently. Like how do we do even better without working harder? I'll give you one of my favorite examples of improving customer experience without working harder. A hospital worker, they do a lot of linens. They wash a lot of sheets and towels in hospitals. And that means that they're constantly moving linens around. And one of the washroom folks would deliver these stacks of towels to the different nurses' stations and would deliver them folded. And it took her about an hour every day to fold these hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of towels. And one day she was doing something like what we're showing here. And she said, "Hey, can I see how you guys use what I give you?" Because knowing how your customer uses your product is almost always interesting. Like, how can I make my service to you better? By finding out what you do with it. And she watched as they had a volunteer or one of the nurses or a candy striper unfold every towel and lay them all flat on a shelf. She said,
Murderous.
now, she didn't say,
So,
"What are you
so
doing? I spent
frustrating.
all this time folding them." She just said, would it be easier for you if I brought them to you all flat like that? You could just stick them straight on the shelf without having to unfold them. They said, "Could you do that? That would be great." And so she saved herself an hour a day of unnecessary folding by asking the customers to better understand how they used her work product, what would make, for a good experience for them. And so for less effort, she delivered a better result. Like those are hiding everywhere, but we don't see them because we don't know to look because we're so busy with our heads down doing the job that's in front of us. So this is where and by the way, steal that story. And this is where I'm talking about um, tiny experiments. How do we tweak something to make it more attractive to the customer or easier for us or both?
That also
Make
fits in the, if you ask your customer what they
right.
value most about what you deliver, and they
Mm.
don't mention the report that it takes you, an entire week to compile, right?
I
And you're
spend a
like,
day
hey,
on
what
this
about
report
that?
every week.
What about that report that we send you? Oh yeah,
I think more than half of reports, if not three-quarters, are no longer useful.
so if
It's a classic.
if you simply ask, hey, what information do you actually need from us? Like, what what do you use?
Yeah. And maybe what information do you wish you got from us? Could be useful. So yes, now we're trying tiny experiments with something we can improve, an internal step, and just keep not like a super formal record, but a simple little log of like, so what did we try? What are we going to try this week? Who wants to try something? Come up with some ideas. And hopefully after talking about it for 5 weeks, and maybe you've at the end of week 5, you can say, "Hey, I want us to try some experiments next week. I'm going to ask you for that next week. Be thinking about that." You can get their juices flowing a little bit. So in the week 6 meeting, hey, what could we try that would be creative or different, or even a small tweak, either to make the quality better or make our lives easier at the existing quality or both. And then week 7, hey, so how'd the experiments go? And your outcome there is the learning bullets. And by week 8, it's, hey, um, do we adjust? Do we try something new? Because the whole point of an experiment is not for it to work. The whole point of the experiment is for you to learn something. It's like, wow, that was totally didn't work. Oh, interesting. In what way did it not work? What did we learn from it's not working? And I want to emphasize, as the frontline supervisor, and if you oversee frontline supervisors, you want to model this for them. You are a cheerleader. You are happy. It's like, oh, it didn't work. Cool. That's interesting. I didn't expect that. What did we learn from that? Right? Because they're probably going to feel down, like, well, the experiment didn't work. It didn't do what we expected. Oh, we're all failures. No, 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 no. That's not what experiments are. Dude, come on. And your upbeatness about it and your enthusiasm for it will signal to them that experiments are intended to be points of curiosity. Like, we didn't already know the answer. If we already knew the answer, it wouldn't be an experiment.
So what's another example of an experiment that, like, let's say in an office environment, what would an experiment look like?
Gosh, it could be anything from, hey, I suspect that no one reads this report. What if we just don't deliver it this week? See if anybody complains. Is that risky? It's like, oh, we're scared. Okay, good. I'm fine with it. I'll take the heat, right? I'm the boss. I'll authorize it. I want to see if anybody uses this. I don't think they ever use it. Okay. I'm happy with holding it back. Like maybe we run the report, but we don't deliver it. That way, if they do need it, it's ready to go. Let's give it a shot. I mean, it's worth finding out which reports are people care
What it
about.
looked
Or
like related to a process. It'd be like, hey, we don't know if this process change is right, but we're going to run an
Mhm.
experiment and make these tweaks in the process this week and see how it goes.
Yeah,
We're not
yeah,
going
and
to
I
do
would
it
throw
with the
that.
full, we're not going to do it with all of our work product, but we're going to take 5 loans. Let's say we're processing loans, and we're going to
Right.
run this process instead because we think it might be more efficient.
Hmm. Yeah, change the order when we do the work. Try to run two things in parallel instead of sequentially.
Right.
Maybe we start step 3 before step 2 is quite completed because step 3 doesn't really need the output of step 2. Does that make it more confusing or does it save us time? Maybe
Yeah.
both.
So this is a great process to go through, especially with anything that involves SOPs, right?
Gosh, yeah,
Like something we would encounter, in the brewery space was, we would have
yeah,
standard SOPs for our seller and for every step of the process because of, lean and QA, right? But those sometimes became a hindrance to delivering the best product most efficiently because they felt written in stone. And so
yeah.
providing an opportunity here for again engagement would
Hmm.
provide that, hey, let's try that new process on this one batch. It's the lowest cost, beer that we've got, and it's only 30 barrels versus running 180 barrels of, one of our main lines. Let's try that process on filtration that you guys want to try on this one. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah. And
Run an
before we
experiment
try it, I
before we
want to
adapt.
know, how are we going to know if it worked or not? Like what, after we run the experiment, we'll know it worked or not worked by what? And get them to articulate that. Because remember,
Yeah, I just wanted
a
to
controlled
illustrate,
experiment isn't just
I
random.
think that experiment idea is fantastic, but I think it's important to be able to see it in different spaces.
Yes. And that's why the experiment log is kind of a hidden gem here, is we're going to say, okay, so we don't all run 3 experiments. It's like we, as a group, we pick out 2 total for this week. So, and what do you guys like? Okay, who's going to own the first one? Who's going to own the second one? Let's now write down. I want to see exactly what the experiment means. Like, what are we going to do differently? Because you don't like go from a written SOP to like, I'm going to do random stuff. No, it's like, here's an alternative, also written SOP prime. This is the different one. It's on a different colored paper and it's going to be used only for, the 30 barrel batch. And it's like, you like write all that down so we're all on the same page so that when the next week happens and we're like, wow, so did it work? We all know what we're talking about. So slowing down and being a little bit meticulous, not super exacting, but enough that you will not wonder, wait, what was the new step again? Like, what was the new experiment? Fred just decided to try some different stuff. And Fred's like, yeah, I tried different stuff and it was good. I'm like, what stuff and what is good? Like, this is not an experiment. This is people just going off the reservation. So let's be just a little bit meticulous. And you get, by the way, you get to be the gatekeeper on this, right? The frontline supervisor gets to say, hey, it's only an experiment if you write down what the new steps are and make some kind of a prediction on what you think might happen and how you'll know what you'll observe to test it. And a successful experiment is anything that teaches us anything. Just say it out. And, celebrate when you review the experiment, say, I love it. Look how meticulous this was. Look how well written it was. It didn't do what we expected. Yeah, that's great. I love it. What? It's like, yeah, no, this is what experimenting is. It's learning stuff. Like if we have a really, really, really good process, most changes won't improve it. But we're just like, I want us to develop the muscles of making experiments in a controlled way. Like that's the real payoff here, is for us to expand our skills. And you guys look at this was a great experiment. Look how well written it was. Look how controlled you were. You took great notes. We made sure it was a small contained thing. Like, I can't imagine a better first try. What are we going to do next? And Now they are co-creating with you. It's like, oh, I want to make this even better. So what else is, and this is where you get to circle back, by the way, to week 2, because there's going to be stuff that annoys them or makes their job hard that they either didn't mention or couldn't be fixed right away. And so back in the experiment space, you'd be like, okay, hey, remember that complaint y'all had back in week 2 about blah, blah, and we didn't really have a fix for it? Could we experiment on that? What could we try there? And then you iterate. And, week 7, review the experiment. Week 8, adjust. Week 9 is where you start to push a portion of the process down to an owner who isn't, and you can ask, hey, who would like to own a portion of this? Like, hey, our most experienced, brewery chemist is Chris. Hey, Chris, do you want to own this part of the SOP where we experiment with yeasts? It's like, Chris is like, me? You're like, yeah, you totally crushed it. Everyone comes to you with questions anyway. You're kind of our subject matter expert. You want to just own this? Well, what does that even mean? Well, it means that the SOP changes come through you. It means that when people have experiments, you cross-check them. And your output here is just an ownership map of which process elements are going to be, quote, owned, unquote, by somebody else. Not that they get to make random changes at will, but that they are the point person to approve changes. And its supervisor, you probably would also. Week 10, hey, what did we do over the past 9 weeks? Do we want to do this again next quarter? Which of our experiments are good enough to be elevated to the new true SOP? Let's make sure everyone's cross-trained. Week 11, biggest win for the quarter. Week 12, hey, let's wrap it up and talk about how we want to work on excellence next quarter.
Rinse and repeat.
Rinse and repeat. And this might accelerate. Like, you might start having experiments, an experiment every other odd numbered week and then a recap every even numbered week. And it doesn't take a quarter to get through the cycle. It takes a couple weeks. But don't rush it, right? You want to go as fast as the trust builds. And when I say trust, I mean, here you are showing the frontline supervisor, showing that they are competent to lead the team through, a process improvement dialogue, and keeps their hands off where they said they would keep their hands off, and supports the team where they said they would support the team. A lot of integrity's there. And they're continuously saying, hey, how do we make it easier for you guys to do awesome work? And the vast majority of people will, if they're suspicious, they'll hold back until you prove you meant it. And then they go, oh my gosh, he's serious. Okay, great. Let's do this. And a very few laggards and sluggards will be uninterested in doing better work faster, but the rest of the team's going to hate them. I mean, that is not a popular opinion.
Once this process is rooted in, that tends to self-select, and the group will begin to either push those people to stand up and perform, or they'll start to naturally push them out of the culture because they're just not a fit anymore.
Yeah, and they'll find someplace else.
What makes this engaging? What is engaging about this process?
Right.
So if you put yourself in the shoes of the frontline staff and think back to, when I think back to my first frontline roles as a busser and a dishwasher and a cook, and being a moderately motivated person certainly had something to do with it. But even if I can put myself in some of my less motivated peers' shoes, like, we were all there to work, and work might as well be as good as it can be, right? And we all wanted some agency over our work. We all wanted the ability to affect how our work went. And if you've got kids, it's just like, it's a natural human desire to have agency over one's space, whether you're 4 years old or 40 years old.
How many times have you heard parenting advice like, if your kid doesn't want to put his pants on, so instead you say, which pants would you like to wear? And so it's like, okay, I'm going to wear pants, but I get to pick which pair, as opposed to I can say no, and exercise my autonomy as a 2-year-old and make life difficult for my
And
parents.
now when we apply it to the workplace, that gets forgotten or removed because, and it happens in both large and small organizations. It
Yeah.
seems, in my experience, it seems to happen more frequently in large organizations because there becomes this standardization edict where we start to tell people how to do things by checklist because that one thing happened that one time. So we better write a policy to make sure that thing doesn't happen again. Right. Instead
Yes,
of
we
instead of going
yes.
back and saying, hey team, like what we want here is excellence. Like let's have this shared idea of excellence and then let's talk about how we get there. It's a it's a complete different conversation than
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you what excellence looks like and I'm going to prescribe every single step you must take along the way to get to excellence. It's a completely different conversation.
Yeah, and in fairness, if you have an extremely low skilled workforce doing relatively easy to train stuff, there's nothing wrong, especially in the first few weeks of onboarding, with having just really clear instructions like here's what to do and here's how to do it.
Absolutely.
But once they're past that level, giving people at least a modicum, a tiny amount of freedom to choose within clear boundaries, a certain amount of autonomy within clear boundaries is very motivating inherently. Aller says there's three. I claim there's four major motivators. Autonomy within clear boundaries is one of them. Getting good at your job and having mastery in a domain is also a big motivator. People really like getting good at stuff and being seen as being good because that's a social payoff, which leads us to the third thing that Fowler talks about, which is connection to other people and connection to purpose. I think those are different enough. I count them as four things total. So autonomy within clear boundaries, mastery, connection to other people, and connection to purpose. And when you are good at your job and seen by your peers as good at your job, it feels good. People like that. They can tell when other people respect them at work. And which also why you need your job.
And by the way, connection to purpose happens naturally through this process because
Yes, because excellence is the purpose.
excellence is the purpose. Well, it's even more than, I mean, there's excellence, but especially when talking with the customer, right? Like
Right.
now you can see how the downstream product of your work impacts the customer, which provides purpose.
Right.
Like
There's a classic story of a
excellence in
bunch of
service
steel
of what?
workers. Go ahead.
Excellence in service of what?
Yes. Yes. Who is the customer? Why are they worthy? How do we help make their lives better? How do we make the world better by helping these internal or external customers? There's a classic story of a bunch of steel workers who were taken away from the steel mill and down to a bicycle factory to see their steel products turned into bicycles. To see, look, people use our stuff to make stuff. It's like, it isn't just like bring in raw materials, work on them, send out other things. And you can get really stuck in your little box and not think about like, who cares if we do good work? Well, they can't make their bikes and kids that can't ride bikes. It's like, I had a bike. I loved my bike. My God, the freedom that came with getting my first bicycle. I still love that feeling. And there is such value in connecting people with success stories from customers. By the way, that's one of the reasons a sales force is often motivated by hearing good stories from the customer success team about, happy customer victory stuff. Tremendously, tremendously helpful and motivating. Everyone should be hearing those stories from time to time. Was it Marriott used to have at every work huddle every morning or every shift start, they'd have a little time for like a positive story of someone who saw somebody else do something cool for a guest recently. And that was a culture builder. And it was also a touchstone of, look, the reason we do this work is to make our customers super happy. And so went above and beyond yesterday by doing this one thing. Um, One of the Marriott stories, a couple shows up and they realize, oh my God, we forgot to pack the little bag full of all the prescriptions for the wife who's traveling. And the bellhop's like, well, where'd you come from? Oh, you know, and they're in like Arizona and it came from Southern California. I said, what part? He says, oh, I have a friend nearby. And they arranged for this bellhop to call his friend to get a neighbor to let him in, find the bag, and ship it there overnight. So in the morning, she had her prescriptions. And they just assembled that on the fly because he overheard the problem and he took initiative to solve it. And that became one of the stories that they shared. It's like, wow, going above and beyond to notice that the client needs something, and you can manifest a solution to that with your creativity and your relationships. It's like, wow. So he was walking on air for a while. It's like, I did that. Oh, look at me. And everyone else would be like, yeah, you. And of course, he just saved the vacation for this poor couple.
Super cool.
And you can't require that. You can't demand that, but
No, and
you can make space for it.
that's dangerous space when you start talking about that, because you see cultures start to demand those things, and it does not work. It's got to
No,
be like that's the nuance of culture right there. Those things have to emerge, and I'll bring it back to, where we started this conversation. Those things don't happen without benevolence on the part of the leadership of the
right.
organization.
Yes, a
If
very
those things
strongly experienced benevolence,
if
right? The
those
front lines
things
have
are I
feel it.
if those things feel like a profit play or a punitive, or they're, my word for it is weaponized. And I've seen every one of those programs weaponized.
Yep. Yeah, they start getting anger and fear and coercion and
I've seen
judgment
I've seen
start to show up.
I've seen be the best boss management development programs weaponized in companies. I've
Yeah.
seen unbridled acts type programs like what you mentioned with Marriott. I've seen those weaponized
Mm.
because
So
at the
what
root,
makes something weaponized? What are the characteristics of a
when it's
weaponized
when it's
version?
used when it's to me, it's when it's used inauthentically for a different purpose than what it should be used in its pure form.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the best definition, but to me, like, an example is, so you have core values that we're all aspiring to live up to, and you've got a authoritative manager who takes those core values and now, you know, stack ranks his team based upon those core values and beats them every day, telling them they're not being blah, they're not, our
Right.
core
I
value
will
is
criticize you into excellence. No, you
right.
don't criticize people into excellence.
No, like, and my favorite one is I literally saw this done with empathy. And this person was browbeating people, telling them they were not being empathetic. It can be done.
I okay. Anything driven by anger, fear, or negative judgment of other people's character is almost certainly the wrong path. Um, one of the things I want to mention about Marriott, the reason I think Marriott was so successful for so many years at creating opportunities for staff to do extraordinary things from time to time is they had such a solid process for getting people checked into clean rooms. Like they were famous for having this like I was a 27-point checklist for the staff to use when cleaning a room. Like you clean the room in this order. They had like the yellow spray for certain surfaces and a yellow rag to wipe with, and a blue spray for these other surfaces and a blue rag to wipe with. So you wouldn't get the two confused. And like a decently trained person could turn over a room in record time with high quality because of their training on the basics. You really drill the basics. And when the basics are drilled, there's no heroism required. It's just, you just show up and you follow the process, and it's relatively easy. And you do that week 2 stuff of like what's getting in your way, and you remove obstacles. And when people have that solid surface to dance upon, then their discretionary energy and their heroism, if they feel like they have
Right?
it in
Because
them to
it's
get
not
her
so
up
hard to
that
get
day,
through the day. Right.
can spontaneously come out, as opposed to some other organization where it takes heroic effort just to do the basics because of all the obstacles. So don't require heroism to get through the day. In fact, if you see heroic effort regularly, that's a warning sign to me that you've got too many obstacles and too many roadblocks. Okay, so let's recap the 12-week process, and we'll make this downloadable for you. But as a manager of managers, we believe that you can get some pretty cool results by showing this. And, once you get your frontline staff through the 3 layers of learning and they are good enough at self-mastery and they're good enough at trust building that they can start to have these excellence conversations productively. And that staff have some trust in their direct supervisor because the supervisor is displaying competence and displaying benevolence and displaying integrity on an ongoing basis. Then this process is an opportunity to display those elements of trust even further by going through the steps. Ask people for their inputs on what is excellence, ask them for things that get in their way and start to fix them, ask them to find out what their internal or external customers think is excellence, fold that in and start building this shared definition, right? The input board, the one-page summary, draft excellence statement. Starting to experiment. This is autonomy within clear boundaries right here. Review the experiment, iterate, adjust, share the ownership, start to integrate it, and fold this into the future, and then decide if you want to commit and do even more of it the following 12 or 13 weeks. We think this is a really good process. Jim and I have each done at least portions, if not this whole thing, and we know it works, and we believe it'll work for you. That's all I've got. Anything else to add to wrap?
In my experience, when you trust people to do good work and you enable them to do good work, they will rise to the occasion. So don't treat frontline workers like frontline workers. Treat them like treat them like directors and owners. Give them the context and give them the agency to do great work and remove the roadblocks that keep them from doing excellent work.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Yeah. And make sure that you are giving your frontline workers supervisors who know what they're doing, who know what it means to manage and lead, and who have, hopefully you've guided them through learning enough of each of the elements in those 3 buckets of core behaviors to be really good leaders.
1,000%.
Super. Thanks again, Jim. This is manager of M2 Managing Managers, and we'll be back again with another episode here as soon as we get around to it. So
Cheers.
thanks for tuning in.